Yo, what is up, guys? It's a take, Ataki, as others call me, back at it again with another video. It's been a while since I've last posted, um, but I'm back. I'm gonna try to be a lot more consistent. Um, and today I'll be going over like an Arms Warrior guide for Season 3 of Dragonflight. Gonna start right off with the talents that I play 99% of the time. Um, there are some like slight changes that I make depending on like what I'm fighting and like what I have on my team. Um, Basically, since your tier set has like a heavy focus on like rend uptime, and it also auto procs your thunderclap. You definitely want to play like the cleave build, quote unquote, um, most of the time now. So that means that you play Thunderclap as well as Blood and Thunder and Warbreaker. You basically, like, your class identity as arms this season is going to be like a lot of bleeds, a lot of like Blade Storm cleave damage, and then like just supporting your team with like sharpens on kill targets, and then as well as just like having the utility to like peel your teammates as well. Um, but yeah, like most of the time, these talents don't really change. You play, as I said, Thunderclap, Blood and Thunder. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. You could make an argument for playing Menace into like Ardruids. Um, Go drop this talent point for it. Because then you can fear like something that's next to the Ardruid while they're in like a trank, and then it knocks their trank if they're not playing the talent. Um, For example, if they summon like a treant, you can fear the treant, like you target the treant, then fear it, and then it will knock the Ardruid out of their trank, and then you can like oftentimes kill them if you have like kill pressure. Plus, it also increases the duration of your fear to like 8 seconds, I think, which is really good. Um, Not really mandatory, but you can play it. I've been playing it a lot since Ardruids are really good in twos. Um, Other than that, like another talent point that you can swap out is Piercing Howl for Berserker Shout. Berserker Shout is like really important to play if you're fighting like an SB or if you're just hitting like a priest a lot, and you're playing with like a Fist Weaver or something where it's just all three of you on top of one target. So if you're playing like Fist Weaver Ret War, you definitely want to play this so you can get both of your teammates out of fears. It's really good for like utility. Other than that, can't really go wrong playing Piercing Howl. Especially because it's now like a 2 second root as well with the Battlefield Commander talent. PvP talent, I mean. I know I'm gonna get asked this. Spear of Bastion is terrible, and taking Uproar isn't really worth it either. Because you want to normally like line up your Thunder Sword with your avatar because that's like your big burst window, right? Moving on to like the arm side of the tree, you still play Ignore Pain. It's still good. It did get like nerfed. It doesn't contribute to anger management anymore, and it also doesn't contribute to tactician. There you go. Anger management, self-explanatory. Warbreaker. If you're able to cleave, always play Warbreaker. If you're facing like a mage, like Ardruid team or something in like twos, you want to play blunt instruments because like you will never get to cleave into that, and then it also makes it impossible for them to like blink your Warbreaker, because it is like a targeted ability. Still play In for the Kill. Still play Strength of Arms. Improved Sweeping Strikes is nice, but like I feel like this is just better in terms of like your single target throughput. I'm still playing Hurricane. Some warriors started playing Unhinged again. I don't really like Hurricane that much, but I don't think it's bad necessarily. You can do some really big damage with it if you like line it up. Like if you like pre-Blade Storm into like a Stormbolt, Avatar, Warbreaker, Thundersword, Sharpen, Mortal Strike, you can do some really big damage with the strength buff, but other than that, it's not that insane. The like Bladestorm itself just turned into like a straight up just like damage ability, which really sucks. I feel like most arms warriors really liked just being able to cancel your Bladestorm because you can just like Bladestorm CC stuff like that instead of being stuck in a 5-second animation. Also, before I forget, Blade Masters and Warlords are both really good. I just prefer Warlords over Blade Masters because, again, I don't really like being stuck in a Bladestorm, and I don't think Hurricane is that good. You can make an argument for both. I would say Blade Masters is really good into Ardruids if you're playing the Storm of Destruction talent. You can just use your Bladestorm to stay on top of them and like spam 70% slow them, and it makes it a nightmare for them to kite you. Other than that, I swapped out of Fatality and started playing Executioner's Precision instead because, again, the tier set just makes you execute more often. So you do gain value from this a lot more. Other than that, that's pretty much it. You can like switch around some talents if you wanted to like heal more if you're doing like double DPS 2s or something with like Fueled by Violence, but I don't think this is that good. But yeah, that's pretty much it for talents. Moving on to PvP talents, you always play Sharpened Blade. I've been pretty much always playing Battlefield Commander, and then I really like Storm of Destruction, but I think Disarm is really good into teams that you need Disarm into, and then I also think that Safeguard is like your #1 talent that you should be picking in 3s, because you can just keep your team alive for so much longer with this. Yeah, that's it for talents and PvP talents. If you have any questions about them, ask me in the comments, and I'll be there to answer any questions you have. Moving on to gear, I'm currently playing a good chunk of Mastery. Basically, my main goal is to be at like about 33% versatility, about 20% haste, and then whatever I can get into Mastery, and then my crit will come passively from having Foresight. So I'll have my tier pieces on shoulders, chest, gloves, and legs. And then I'll have the crafted boots, and then the crafted helm that gives you secondary stat randomly. This helmet is insane, by the way. It like spam procs back to back pretty much. I was testing it earlier. I had like 70% uptime on it, which is really good. Because like all the secondary stats for arms are really good. Like mastery is good, haste is good, crit honestly is also good. Like everything is good. Versatility obviously as well. As for trinkets, I'm just playing the insignia and then just normal trinket. Sometimes I'll swap this out for an on-use trinket because I'm playing human on this warrior. But if I was playing like something that wasn't human, I would just play a normal trinket. Crafted neck, obviously. I still need to upgrade this neck and my ring, but that's gonna take like a month because you only get 1 splinter per week, which sucks. Weapon, honestly, just go for the stats I just mentioned. 20% haste is like, it's like on the lower end of like the haste that most warriors play. Like some warriors play like 30% haste, which I find like overkill. You can do that, but I feel like you just lose like some of your like chunky damage doing that. And then some other warriors play as low as like 15% haste and then just put all their stats into mastery and crit outside of that. I think 20% haste is a really good threshold to hit though. If you're slightly over, it's fine as well. It's still pretty early in the season, so like things might change slightly. But yeah, that's what I'm probably going to be playing. If things change, I'll update the guide in the future. I think something I see a lot on like Reddit and stuff about like people complain about guides is that like people don't go into or in depth a lot with like burst rotation, what to do outside of your burst. So that's what this next section is going to just be. Gonna start off with the burst rotation. You basically want to have like a slow up, so like hamstring, double overpower, and then if you're playing Hurricane and yet like, you can do damage with it, you just want to pre-Bladestorm. Avatar Warbreaker, you can stun too as well. Thunderspore, Mortal Strike. Sharpen Mortal Strike, I mean. And you can rank some pretty high numbers like that. I think I saw like a 400k crit there. But yeah, that's like pretty much your burst. Like you normally want to stun like before you Avatar Warbreaker because that global gives them time to like pre-wall or something. You mainly want to have your Thunderous Roar out because it amplifies your damage by 5% as well as like the damage your teammates do, which can lead to like these really big numbers. Yeah, so that was a 460k Mortal Strike crit, averaging 162k. Do keep in mind this target doesn't have any armor and it's just a PvP dummy. So you won't really hit those numbers in PvP, but you can crit for like 300k for sure. I've had multiple crits at like 280k this season already, and I'm pretty behind on gear because I was gone for a week. So I could definitely upgrade like my cloak, my wrist, and like my neck. I could just buy like an honor one, and it would be higher eye level. Same with my like ring, but I'm honestly just too lazy to do that. Outside of your burst, you just want to basically keep Mortal Strike off cooldown, and then if like your Mortal Strike doesn't reset for some reason, you want to like Thunderclap to AoE apply your Rend, because then you proc sudden death a lot more. So if there's like a lot of pets, make sure to have like Thunderclap Rend on all of them. And then if you like, you should normally have like a go every 30 seconds. And I like to read like sweeping strikes before, and then try to get like a double stun like this, and then just Warbreaker sharpen, and then overpower Mortal Strike, overpower Mortal Strike. You don't want to really Mortal Strike back to back if you have 2 charges of overpower. If you can overpower Mortal Strike, overpower Mortal Strike, overpower Mortal Strike like this, it's really good. Because you don't want to overcap your overpower stacks, because overpower pumps stam too. And it just also buffs your Mortal Strike, so it just makes it like hit harder, if that makes sense. Like the damage comes out to about the same if you spam Mortal Strike, but you have like more burstiness and like more chunky hits by pressing like overpower in between. If you're just like, you just did your 30-second like CD go with like Warbreaker, Stormbolt, and then your CDs come back up, you basically want to do the same thing. Thunderous Roar, Sharpen Mortal Strike, while you have Sweeping Strikes up, ideally, because that optimizes your cleave damage. Yeah, and you just spam Overpower, spam Mortal Strike, Execute when you have Execute procs. You should also try to min-max your Hamstring uptime. Hamstring is honestly really annoying if like you have it up and then like it's like a melee and you can like kind of kite them. Like imagine they're like just 50% slowed while you keep walking away from them, then hitting them. You can do it a lot to rogues. They get pretty pissed. And then rogues will have to like sometimes use like a shadow step if you like you know they're about to do a go. You can just slow them and then kite off of them while you like hit them with mortal strikes. And then you can like try to like Bladestorm Kidney, which is really good. And then if you like just Bladestorm like a kidney or something, you can like do a go off of it too with the Hurricane buff. But yeah, if you're cleaving, you're gonna fucking blast damage. Like I'm averaging 113k mortal strikes. Obviously it's training dummies without armor, but like I've had games where my mortal strike is averaging like 100k, like in actual arena against like demon hunters and stuff like that, like leather classes. Your rend damage should also be pretty high, as well as your deep wounds. Deep wounds will be higher if you're like bleeding a lot because your blade storm applies it, as well as your warbreaker. That's pretty much it for like how you do damage on warrior. The class isn't really like it was in Shadowlands where you could like necro banner and like Colossus Smash or Warbreaker or whatever, like Avatar, like one shot people with like a big mortal strike into like an execute proc or something like that. I feel like Dragonflight just made it a lot more like bleed oriented, and then just lining up like Warbreakers with like sharpens and then like getting pressure that way. another thing, speaking of pressure, is like that's like the main way warrior wins. Like warrior isn't really a burst class anymore. It can do a lot of bursts, but like that's not what like the identity of it is, if that makes sense. Like if you take a look at like the talent tree, like a lot of your damage is just coming from just like cleaving. So like what you can do is like if you get like the double like shockwave go with like a sweeping strikes warbreaker and then sharpen on both of them, you can sometimes get like a defensive from your main target and you can swap to the other guy because he still has the warbreaker debuff on him, right? And then you can get a lot of pressure that way. Like say this is like a DH and this is like a DK, you double shockwave them. The DH like trinket blurs and then you just swap to the DK and then you get like a PS or like an Iron Bark or something. Or like IBF. So like you just got multiple like cooldowns in one go, which is really good. And eventually they're gonna start running out of cooldowns and you can just kill them too. In twos, I know a lot of people play twos. The main issue Warrior has right now is like just closing out the game. You can't really punish people in twos as much because Arduid exists and Treants like just literally are a band-aid for that class. Like they don't have to do anything properly. They can just sit there and face tank you, sit in bear form, press Treants, and live. So the way you win twos a lot, like, is just literally like 70% dampening, and you just get like a good go with like Avatar, Thunder's Roar, Sharpen, and that's like how you win most of your games in twos. Obviously, you're gonna have some games that are shorter because you just randomly one-shot a guy, or like an Ardruid doesn't respect your cooldowns, so you just Fierce Trank, like I was mentioning earlier, with the Menace talent, and then you can kill the Ardruid. Had a game like that today where I literally just one-shot the Ardruid in the opener. Things I personally like struggle with, and like I see a lot of other warriors struggle with, is like your spell reflects. Basically, you want to use spell reflect in a way where you can, like in a meta like this, you want to use spell reflect on stuff like Cyclone mostly. A lot of warriors will like spell reflect and bladestorm at the same time, which is like really cooked. Because like bladestorm, you're not going to get CC'd anyway, and like the only thing that you really want to spell reflect is CC anyway. If you can like spell reflect Chaos Bolt, it's obviously really good. But like other than that, there aren't really that many like big casts that like go off that you can spell reflect. Speaking of Warlock, this is like another thing. If you see like a Warlock use their Havoc, I personally use nameplate cooldowns. It basically shows like their cooldowns above their nameplate. So I'll see it go off. It's a 30-second cooldown, and what they try to do is Havoc and then double Mortal Coil if they're playing Destro. So what you can do is if you look at their Havoc cooldown and they press it, it's a good chance that their next global is going to be Mortal Coil. So if you can press Spell Reflect half the time, or like most of the time, you can Spell Reflect a Mortal Coil, which is really good. If you can do that, that's really good. It's going to take practice. Practice makes perfect, obviously. And it's not going to work at like the highest level because the Warlocks will just get better. They'll be like, they'll notice you do it and then they'll like adjust mid-game. But yeah, that's something to look out for. Also, you can time your Bladestorm to like if you're getting cloned and you don't have a spell reflect or like a stun to stop it, you can time your Bladestorm to get put on clone DR but Bladestorm out of it. So if you can time it properly with like the Bladestorm and the clone, that's how you do it basically. It's really, really difficult to explain. Like the timing of it is like something you just learn over time as well. But if you can get that down, that's insane as well. Look for a lot of like focused Stormbolts on healers. If you're like about to do a go, which is like you can like set up a lot on Warrior. Your fear is like a 1 minute 15-second cooldown now too, so it's pretty short. So you can like bolt fear, and then that's like 8 to 9 seconds of CC, which is more than enough to kill a guy. So if you can look for that, it's really good. And then like if you're doing your goes, you want to look for like 2 or more people to shockwave. So if you like, again, let's use our example from earlier. If you have a DH here and a DK here, and you double shockwave them, and then you like bolt the healer and then do your go, that's really good. Before you do that, you want to sweeping strikes too, by the way, because you want to cleave here, but you don't have the global to press sweeping strikes while they're stunned, because then they're gonna just press a cooldown out of it. You want to do like a lot of damage while they're stunned. That's like what I'm trying to get at. Nothing really comes to mind like other than that. Obviously, like using your D-stance when your healer is like low on mana, or you know, like a sub rogue is about to do like go on you, or you know you're about to get like stunned. If you can just pre-D-stance it, it's really good. It's literally free 10% damage reduction. Yeah. So you can take 10% less damage while you're stunned, and you're not going to do any damage while you're stunned anyway. So it has like no downside. And then also try to use like impend, not off cooldown, but like when your healer is in CC and you can get value from it. You don't want to just press it to heal, because like your healer is going to heal you. And if they're not CC'd, then they should be able to like keep you up. And then if they get CC'd, that's when you press it. Oh, another thing with like rally is this is like the like last resort kind of cooldown. You want to press like everything before you press rally, because rally also affects your teammates, right? If you can intervene to your teammate and then like peel the go with like a stun or like a disarm or a fear, that's better than having to press rally. Also, you don't want to really rally when everyone's high HP. You want to rally when everyone's low HP, because when you rally when it's high HP, you don't really get like any value from it, unless like you don't have a trinket. You're completely out of cooldowns, you don't have a trinket, but you're full HP. You can distance, ignore pain, rally before like a big rogue mage go. That's like the only time, because in that go you're gonna die in the stun, right? You're not gonna get out and be able to press rally, so that's like the only time you would pre-rally. But yeah, also using your trinket like defensively is probably like your best bet. Like some classes like Windwalker, they like to trinket like aggressively. If you trinket defensively, you shouldn't really die that much. Into casters, you don't want to be the guy that trades their mobility first, if that makes sense, right? If you're facing like a mage, you wanted to like say this mage is just like standing there casting Frostbolt, Ice Lance, whatever. You can hit like whatever is close and then Blade Storm towards them. Apply your Blade Storm slow and then stun them. They might like blink away, and that's when you can charge. Because like you want them to blink first, then charge. They blink again, you can charge again, and then they like alter time, and then you can like use your leap on that, if that makes sense. You basically want them to trade first in terms of mobility, because if you trade first on charge, like for example, a lot of warriors do this. They'll be like on their mount, like running in, and then they'll like charge for global hamstring, and then start doing damage. You don't really want to do that if you can avoid it into like casters, because you're just wasting mobility. Into melee, it's fine because you generate rage with your charge, and then you also just like force them to be in a position closer to their healer versus you being in a position closer to your healer, because that makes it easier for them to CC your healer. This guy is the guy I'm attacking. This is his healer. If I can charge and be like close to his healer, it's really good, because then I can bolt, do my go, maybe even get like a double Warbreaker, stuff like that. Versus you being here, they charge at you or whatever, they like stun you here, they root you here, they CC you here next to your healer is gonna get CC'd. So if you can keep melee close to their healer, or like casters close to their healer, it's really good. If there are like any other questions, let me know. I can do like separate videos on like specific abilities as well, like how you should be using your intervene, how you should be using your fear, and then like go into specific comps, like because things change, right? As well as like what to kick as well. These are like all things that like go super in depth, and honestly I don't really want to make like a 3-hour guide on warrior. If people want something like that, I will do it, but I just wanted to have something simple but like in depth enough to actually help people like improve. All right, well, anyways, that's gonna be it for my guide. If you have any further like questions, as I said before, ask in the comments, like the video, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, and yeah, I'll see you guys around.